All right.
All right.
All right, everybody, listen up.
Are they in or out?
No.
So I just wanted to introduce Janie, the founder of Show Me Your Stethoscope, and she's going to share her story and how she created an amazing organization. She has about 800,000 plus following, and they're nurses. Some of them are EMTs and doctors, but it really is for nursing. And they joined the movement for safe patient ratios and a lot of other organizations they work with. They do medical missions. They're really amazing, and she's inspiring. And I just wanted her to share her story and encourage all of you, because you all have a voice and we need you guys to use it, right? So if you have a dream, go out there and make it a reality. So this was a 3 a.m. conversation. I was like, what do you think about a mixer? A couple months, maybe over the summer, actually, and it happened. I didn't honestly think this would happen, but it did, you know? So with the help with others, so you have to network with people, and it's all about, you know, who you know and who you connect with, and you never know how others can help you, so that's why you have to help others as well. All right, so without further ado, I would like to introduce Janie. Okay, no problem.
Hey guys, so I'm going to stand behind this podium only because I'm not used to wearing heels. The only thing I do is wear dance goes, so, which are probably terrible for you, right? So, okay, so it is so weird when you're asked to tell your success story, right? You look around at your unpaid bills and your messy house, you know, and you go, why does anybody think I'm successful? So, but what's a success story, right? Really, the kind of success stories that we want to hear are the ones that are triumphing, you know, triumph over adversity types of success stories. Those are the ones we always want to hear, like the Florence Nightingales, who, you know, triumph over sexism and ignorance, especially of like germ theory, okay, and she was really good at that. And the Martin Luther Kings, who, you know, triumph over racism, okay. Those are the success stories that you want to hear. Not so much the nurse that made a Facebook group because she was mad. No, it totally happened. That's what happened. Okay, so you know, we don't care about the rich kid who went to college and got richer. It's just not dramatic enough for us, right? So we talk about people like Mark Zuckerberg, who like when he go to Harvard, he dropped out and made Facebook, and you're like, wow, but you know, that's a super cool story, though he was a college dropout. We probably should not, in fact, like condone that. But here's one we can talk about. Ellen Ochoa was the first Hispanic person to leave the atmosphere of the Earth on the Space Shuttle Discovery, okay? And that happened on a very special day for me, which was April 8th, 1993, which was the day that my first son was born, okay? So I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a nurse, I'm an author, I'm a handbag addict, and shoes, by the way, as well. I hate these. And, you know, like I said, a messy housekeeper. But what I am mostly, actually, is someone who's been damaged by life. And we're all damaged by life, right? In my case, I was damaged by life when my oldest son, who we just talked about, was born on April 8th, 1993, the same day that the first Hispanic person went into orbit, right? Well, he was killed in February 2011. So we're battered, right? We're all battered. And when that happened, I didn't think I would ever do anything again, ever. Some of you are moms or dads, okay? And you hear that, you heard me come out with that after all the smiles and the jokes, and it went into your chest, like you had just been hit with the defib pats, all right? So it's one of those things that you just can't even imagine. And then it happens, and you're a nurse, you're an ER nurse, in my case, all right? And you don't work anymore. And one day, you sit in the parking lot of a Walmart in BFE, Missouri, with a syringe full of insulin. But you don't do it, okay? So that's my success story and my triumph over adversity. And what happened next was that Kelly Johnson was Miss Colorado. And a bunch of, I don't know if you guys saw this. Some of you might be too young now, because it's been a few years. she was at Miss Colorado, and she was in the Miss America pageant, and she wore scrubs and stethoscope, you know, and she did this beautiful monologue about how this patient touched her life. She was in long-term care, okay? So the next day on daytime TV, The View, you know, Joy Behar and the crew lambasted her on daytime TV, and they were like, what, you know, why was she wearing a doctor's stethoscope? Hello, they borrowed from me. Yeah. And what was that costume? And did she really think she would win with a monologue? And all the nursing world went, what? You know, because we were just horrified that somebody would say this. And we're talking about powerful women with a real platform, right? Nursing, though I'll look around at my male colleagues and apologize, nursing is a very female-heavy profession. And I think it's more horrifying for us to see powerful women downgrade us than anything else. So I got mad, right? I go home, and I live in Missouri. By the way, I'm originally from Long Island. So I'm not that bad. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so I go home, and I make a Facebook group called Show Me Your Stethoscope, because I live in the show me state of Missouri. Oh, yeah, it has a story. So I think 50 of my coworkers are going to post pictures of them and their stethoscope. And then there were 815,000 people in this Facebook group. And I said, what are you going to do with this? And I was like, you're going to do good. You're going to do what you said you were going to do when you were sitting in that parking lot with a syringe full of 100 units of insulin. And you're going to make a difference. And that is how Show Me Your Stethoscope happened. And now we do medical mission trips. And we go to Ghana and Haiti. We just actually did a super cool mission trip that was bringing female sanitary supplies, reusable ones, washable, to people in Ghana, because these women are using like roots and stuff and dirt to keep, you know, and not going to school because it's a taboo thing. They're in their religion for them to be bleeding. Okay, so we brought sanitary supplies to those women, trying to empower those women. Okay, because this is all about empowering people. We are in a very female-heavy profession, and we're martyrs. Okay, and the staffing, you know that now to stay in the hospital overnight, you have to be dying. 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it was not the same way. You had a lot of patients who were, as we said, walkie-talkies. But you don't have so much of that anymore, but we have double the patients we had then. So we do advocacy with Show Me Your Stethoscope. We do safe patient ratios. We do nurse violence, you know, healthcare worker violence. You guys may have heard of Captain Katie Blanchard, who was actually stabbed and set on fire by one of her civilian employees. She's an Army Nurse Corps officer, okay? We went to her sentencing hearing when the nurses were kidnapped and raped by an inmate in Geneva, Illinois. Did you hear much about that? No, you didn't. Why? Because people don't want you to hear about that. That's why, okay? When they were kidnapped and raped by an inmate who was a patient, we went there to help raise awareness in the Chicagoland area about nurse violence, okay? So that's my dream. My dream someday is to be able to do nurse advocacy full time, because you're worth it. You're all worth it. And if you're a student, you need to get into the advocacy game early, because this is the only thing, like nurse advocates are the only thing between you and 10 med-surg patients. They're the only people between you and 14 ER patients, okay? And you're gonna find that while some of our more local and targeted professional organizations, such as this one, are very interested in issues like this, some of our larger professional organizations don't in any way give a damn about how many patients you have, okay? And about whose grandmother may die because you're so busy. So grassroots and smaller organizations are the way to go. And this, guys, is my dream. My dream is to make people safer and populations healthier. And it's gonna start with people like you advocating in your communities. So that's kind of the Show Me Your Stethoscope thing, guys. That's the whole thing. It's a Facebook group. Go join it, you know, and you come hang out. I do live casts and talk to people. And sometimes I talk to 2,000 people, and sometimes I talk to 200,000 people, depending on the day and the topic and how many people see it. And we're having a staffing rally in DC, April 25th and 26th. I think there are buses from the New York area, aren't there? Yeah. if you want to come to that. And know that no matter what has happened in your life, no matter what bumps you went over, no matter what bruises you have acquired, you can actually get back up and go and do. I know this. I do. And actually, it's odd. My son's birthday is Sunday, 2 days from now. And I almost didn't come because I was like, oh, I'm just going to be too upset those days. But I'm so glad I came and got to meet you guys. So, you know, do you have any questions for me, Eva?
Oh, yes.
Oh, of course you do, Horace.
Let's start with me. Well, I mean, we all know about these like worldwide success. We're talking about 800,000 people, right? So it's not like 3,000 likes. I mean, I posted my picture. And let me tell you, I mean, I got like 3,000, I think, and that's like the most famous I've ever felt in my life. However, I think that it's important to understand one thing is that you were able to get the nurses to come together to an issue that maybe not be that important as the staffing ratios. So why can we come together for these?
Exactly.
Why can we not come together for that?
This is our question. We're all like incensed. Oh, Dr. Stethoscope. And we all join a Facebook group and talk. But when it's somebody's, you know, grandmother dying of neglect, a failure to rescue in a hospital, we just all go, well, you know, I had 8 patients. And we're, for the rest of our lives, we're guilty over that grandma that died in the hospital because we were unable to rescue them because of all our patients. But we can't, you know, we can't be reactive, we have to be proactive. And unfortunately, no matter what at this point, it's reactive because, you know, if you crash 3 jumbo jets a week full, okay, that's how many people in a year die of medical errors. And a lot of that is related to unsafe staffing. Okay, 3 jumbo jets, and if that happened, and Laura Gasparis-Fonfolio teaches CCRN, and she actually talked about this in one of her CCRN classes. She said if the United States had 3 jumbo jets crashing a week, these people crashing to their death, there would be an uproar, there would be an outcry for justice, and you make the complaints safe, and people die of medical errors every day in the same amount that we're talking about, and we don't do anything about it. And why is that? Because we're all kind of slaves to this system, and it sounds terrible, but we really are. And we have to advocate for nursing, and we get taught in nursing school that advocating for our patients. Nobody ever teaches us to advocate for ourselves, ever. So that's, again, my dream, is to teach you and help you network to advocate for yourselves. You are the most trusted profession on the planet, okay? Students, you are about to enter the most trusted profession on the planet. And we have to be able to trust you to advocate for yourself so you're healthy enough to take care of your patients, okay? So, I know that sounds long-winded and dramatic, but it's really true. From somebody who has worked a double in the ER, and a double's like almost 24. You know, we're allowed to work 20 in Missouri straight. You know, and you have 10 psych patients in the back, or you're taking care of a sexual assault patient, which is my pet nursing, by the way. That's what I like to do, though I do cardiac electrophysiology now. My favorite nursing is sexual assault nursing. I've been that person. It's not like I'm an executive somewhere. I'm not. I'm a staff nurse, okay? So I am every day coming out and saying these things to people. Why do we have this staffing problem? Why aren't you letting the nurses make any of these decisions? You're supposed to have shared governance for this almighty magnet status. Why aren't you letting them make any choices? Autonomy? That's not autonomy. That's checking a box for a certification. So that's kind of me. I guess I'm like I don't know, I'm trying to think of the hippie. Somebody come up with a hippie from the 60s. I'm that for nursing sometimes. I'm like, the man, the establishment. Yes, Andrew.
Laura Gasparis, in one of her videos for the rally, said that nurses have allowed our autonomy to be seeped away, to be taken away, but she also said that we have it within us to turn it around.
And we do have it within us to turn this around. And I'm hoping that a lot of you guys will become advocates for the profession, if you aren't already. You know, that's my goal. All right, what you got, Corey?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's me
Yeah.
again. Oh, my
No,
God.
I'm liking this. I like all the attention from you.
No, I just think that what has been one of the challenges, because I understand what it means to have this different voice. Because we tell nurses use this voice, but then when they use it, no, we don't want to hear that. Okay, this is not what I wanted to hear. I mean, I was the first co-chair for the first shared governance at the unit, and I was given all these set of goals, but none of that was the goals that we wanted. So now I would say, yeah, but you give me autonomy. Yeah, but I mean, autonomy means these goals, not that goal. Anyhow, so listen, I mean, being this kind of person is not also necessarily also a good thing. Because then you get to be seen as, oh, here we come again with his voice, he's gonna probably be a difficult person, he's gonna probably point at these things that nobody wants to talk about, and he wants to talk about the elephant in the room. So what have you found?
I have found that the more nurses we bring together at a spot, like to an issue. For example, when we went to Delmore, in Geneva, Illinois, after this nurse she was sexually assaulted, raped, and brutalized, okay? And none of you heard about it. And none of you heard about it because nobody wants you to hear, all right? Because then it's an issue. Nurses being raped in a hospital, how can this even happen? Well, we were the reason. Our group, the Illinois Nurses Association, by the way, was key in this, all right? We went there to the courthouse in King County and had a freaking protest until they changed their rules for prisoner security. I mean, and that is how you make change. You make change grassroots, on the ground. And I hate to put it this way, guys, but you can't care what your boss thinks about it. You can't, because it's legal for you to express your opinion, and frankly, not every state is an at-will state. and they get enough lawsuits, they cut it out. All right, in my case, I'm a veteran working for the VA. I dare them every day. I do. Okay, I'm like, please, just try. But, and I mean, I've actually said, please, just try. So I understand, like, job security and stuff like that can be an issue. But really, what we need to worry about more than job security is whether or not you can lay your little head down on the pillow at night and live with yourself. And I knew that I couldn't. So that's why I do this. Okay? And if you guys have any questions about advocacy, any questions about how you can get involved with other initiatives, I'm always here. Okay? I talk to everybody about all this stuff, like on the daily, man. What do you got, Andrew?
I'm the other Andrew.
The other Andrew. Oh, he smells pretty. That was not professional of me in any way.
Hey, thank you for coming.
Sure.
Thank you for sharing.
Loving it.
So I'm a student and I'm gonna graduate hopefully next month. So I just wanted to know kind of, so you said you should get started with advocacy now, so like how?
Okay, well, our group, Show Me Your Stethoscope, we also do a lot of stuff with another group called Silent No More. And they do a lot of, they're in Maryland, by the way, because they're kind of home based. They do a lot of nurse violence stuff. We do a lot of nurse violence stuff. We're the STAMP campaign, Stop Assault on Medical Providers. We also have our Show Me Your Stethoscope for Change group, okay, and Nurses Take DC. And if you join them, you will get all kinds of information about local, regional, and national advocacy opportunities. For example, we're going April 25th and 26th. We're going to DC. You know, if you're off that day, if you're not in school, not taking finals that day, you can get on a bus for free and go. I mean, we have it out there. We have a sponsor who has sponsored buses to pay for nurses to come and advocate for themselves in DC. But we have a hard time getting the word out there because, okay, I'm just going to say it, big nursing organizations think somehow that my little folks are competition. We're not competition. We're all on the same team, okay? We're all on the same team. And it's very hard to get information out to nurses because of this. So we're trying to give nurses a voice. Believe it or not, that was what my entire Facebook pitch was about. I'll tell you about it later. But that's been our whole thing, giving nurses a voice, okay? Because you don't have a voice when it's just your little whispering voice. You have a voice when we're all shouting together. And we're all saying, this is not right. Okay, we cannot do this way. This is morally wrong. And when you do that, when it's loud. You can't be ignored. Okay. So, hope that answers your questions. All right. Anybody else? These are the worst shoes I've ever bought.
I do have more questions.
Oh,
Nobody
go
has.
ahead. I'm here.
I just want to hear, for me to like an icon in nursing, you know, like one of these nursing theories, like one of these big charts. But anyways, what were you thinking when you just went and created the page?
I was mad.
You were
I was
just
mad.
pissed?
I was pissed off. Because these people, like I said, I guess it double horrifies me when people who are women and have a platform are nasty to nursing, which is this hugely heavy female profession, and which is probably the root of all our problems, honestly. Because well, it is. You know, sexism is alive and well. You know, I'm not all about, you know, stamp out the patriarchy. I'm not Pantsuit Nation, but you know, But it is actually I mean, it's part of it. I was telling Jorge earlier, actually, I said, God, I've been hoping that with more men in nursing that we'd get sick of it quicker and, you know, stamp our feet, but hasn't happened yet, but I hope it does. Honestly, I really feel like more men in nursing is actually very healthy for the profession. I think it's too heavy. So yeah, and especially labor and delivery nurses. Andrew, I'm going to need you to specialize in labor and delivery. All right. Is that it? Yes, no? All right. Guys, it was a real pleasure.
She has a question.
Oh, whoa. Story, really? That's my lead admin from Show Me Your Stethoscope.
Well, there goes my question. I was going to ask admins, we're going to get a raise.
Yes, we're going to double your salary. 0 plus 0. Yeah, Andrew.
Where can people find you online?
Yes. So you can search for the Show Me Your Stethoscope group. It'll have like 660,000+ people in it. When you go in there, put a note that says something like, I saw Janie at the non-event, and they'll approve you right away. You can also go to the Show Me Your Stethoscope page and like it, and it's facebook.com/Show Me Your Stethoscope page. So it's really hard. And the Nurses Take DC page. You can also check that out. STAMP, Stop Assault on Medical Providers, another one. And these are all different initiatives, but if you just get into the one group, the Show Me Your Stethoscope group, or the page, you'll find the rest of it. Because we're always spamming you with stuff. Hey, come to this event. Hey, come to this fundraiser. You know, because you got to raise money too. That's another thing. Yes, ma'am.
What I enjoy the most, because I'm already in the group, is all the posts. They're very educational. It talks about other people posting the experiences and stories, and I mean tons of stuff. But there was one time that I tried to post on the group a question, because I'm new to nursing, to the nursing world. Thank you. And my post didn't get posted or whatever. I think that there's
Talk
just
to me later.
so many people, and there's maybe just
Sometimes, okay, so we have post approval on.
We do send
I'm going to tell you why we have
But
post approval on.
it's great.
It's because of spam and porn. That's
Okay.
why we have post approval on, and you know,
Yeah.
it's all the time. We actually have a name, Code Palomino, for something. I'm sure you can imagine what it is.
That was me. Thank you.
Yes.
Two things, two questions. What keeps you going? And I guess more for the students, what would be your advice, or even nurses, what would be your advice for students who are maybe failed a class or the boards, or
Oh, that's
you know,
easy.
didn't get the job that they wanted, or you know, just like when all hell breaks loose and then you're just like, I want to give up, what would be your advice?
Okay, so this is what keeps me going. First of all, you guys know I have a real crappy story, right? That's a terrible story. But even before that, what always kept me going was my duty to myself, okay? Not my duty to others, because my duty to myself is way heavier, all right? Because I have a responsibility to be a good person and to make a difference in the world. And as long as you keep thinking of yourself as a valuable resource that cannot be wasted, it will keep you going. Because you are, every single one of you. You know, whether you've been a nurse for 6 minutes or 60 years, you are extremely valuable, okay? If you fail, are not successful at a class or a test or your boards. Funny story, I have a good friend who, by the way, failed the board 6 times. Best PICU nurse I've ever known in my whole life, okay? He failed the boards 6 times. 7th time, he passed them. So failing your boards is not the end of the world. I can't even count on both my hands how many friends I have who have failed boards. So I don't want you to worry about that. However, I don't want you to come into the boards when you go to take them and say, oh my God, Janie said I was going to fail the boards, because that's not what I said. All right. I've been a nurse a while, so I've actually met a few people who have failed them, but just remember you have a duty to yourself. It's so important to be true to yourself. And that can be a cliche, but it really isn't, because like I said, you're just so damn valuable, and your education is so valuable. You're serving all of humanity, but you have to serve you first. Okay. Yes?
One thing that we're seeing a lot are brand new nurses come into the field, and many we see within the first 3 years of working on the floors, they say, this is not what I signed up for, this is not the ivory tower nursing we learned in nursing school. How can we immunize them and open their eyes early so that when they get on the floors, it won't be a culture shock, and they won't be tempted to go straight to nursing school, straight to CRNA school,
guys,
anything to get off the floors?
A huge percentage of new nurses leave the bedside within 3 years. Okay, first of all, they do. Personally, I find that you're a better nurse if you stay in patient care for a little while. I do. I find that, I mean, you don't have to stay there forever. I feel like I did, but you don't have to stay there forever. But you should get your salting somewhere in some specialty, or and med surg, by the way, is a specialty. So if you didn't want to be a med surg nurse and you got a med surg job, you're still doing as a matter of fact, you're doing the backbone of nursing. Med surg is not a punishment. It's a specialty. Okay. So if you wanted to be, a rockin' ER nurse, well, maybe you just needed to go to the floor first. Maybe you did. Maybe you needed that year in the unit, or you needed that year, on colorectal, wherever you wind up. Okay, I had a friend who wound up on colorectal, by the way, was horrified. She was like, oh my God, I cannot believe I'm going there. She's the manager there now. So made a whole career out of it. She wanted to do what? PICU. Actually, we worked together in PICU. She wanted to do PICU, wound up in colorectal adult. She's the manager now. So don't assume, that's another thing, don't assume you know what you want your specialty to be, because you don't. You know what I wanted to do? PICU. PICU. That was what I was going to do. So I did adult ICU and adult ER and cath lab and cardiac electrophysiology. Okay? You see something and it looks good, but until you get in there, you give other stuff a chance. All right? I was absolutely sure I was going to be a PICU nurse 100%. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. I was hoping you were going to ask me. It looked like you wanted to a couple times.
So it doesn't matter whether you're new or old, is what I've heard. Like, you will once in a while make a mistake.
Absolutely.
And I think most of us are our own worst critic, especially in nursing. So when we do make that mistake, how do we get over it? Because I know I can go on for days kicking myself.
Okay, so I've made mistakes, and I'm happy to tell you about them. Okay, I've made a med error. I've made errors where I left a treatment out or whatever. It happens. And I think the most important thing for you is to be honest about it. You go, okay, this happened. Why did it happen? This happened because I didn't do what I was, didn't do this by the procedure they gave me. No, that wasn't it. I did do it by the procedure they gave me. Because most processes are broken, not people. Okay, so like if you have a nurse who's running around like a lunatic, on a, like her hair's on fire all night long on the floor, and she's got 10 med-surg patients, and you expect everything to get done, and the error was omission, that you didn't get something done, well, that's a problem with the process. That's not actually a problem with the nurse, first of all. Now, I'm not saying you should like let yourself off the hook for giving somebody 10 times too much morphine, obviously, okay? But certain things, remember that they're not actually a personnel issue, they're a process issue. All right, and that's the one thing. Okay, so they made me take this lean yellow belt thing. They made me take some lean yellow belt stuff, and it's all about processes and QA and whatever. And I'm going to tell you something. That was the thing I took away from it. It was, I knew it. The processes were all screwed up. That was the problem. And if you improve the process, and I always like tell people to get involved with quality improvement. in their facilities because it really opens your eyes to stuff. There's this model called the Swiss cheese model, right? You've seen it? Okay, where the mistakes fall through the Swiss cheese holes? Okay, so that really happens. that totally happens, and more than anywhere in the emergency department, I think, is the place where that happens, because you've got a million things going on, you're going a million different ways, and it just slips that way. So what you have to do is say, how did this happen, right? What was my part in this? What could